DJ Scream, heavy in the streets.
We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood. We gon' get it, we gon' get it, we gon' get it. We gon' get it, we gon' get it. Get it in blood. Get it in blood.
Hood rich.
Get it out the mud.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And we are back. We are back after a bit of a end of season hiatus to the New Orleans Saints and their 2024-2025 season. But that's all in the past now. But we are here for a happy New Year, a happy New Year's, everyone. And I hope you had a good 2024, and I hope your outlook for 2025 is good. So happy New Year's. And now we have some appetizers for you for I believe this is the first podcast of the 2025 season, Saints and Appetizers. And we have an appetizer for you. And I'm talking about UFC 311, Makhachev versus Moicano. Let's see here. So Islam Makhachev versus Renato Machado. And just like I've stated several times when it comes to any type of like pay-per-view or paying in advance or going to a live show, like you really like literally like maybe just a couple hours before, you don't actually know what the actual set card is going to be, because there can always be injuries or pullouts, and that's exactly what we had in this on this card. But I actually like the way I like the way they reconstructed it, honestly. So originally we had Arman Tsarukyan versus Islam Makhachev 2, because they fought before, and I guess they're supposed to be a rematch, a couple of years down the road. Arman Tsarukyan thinks he's more seasoned and more capable of beating a dominant elite champion, elite lightweight like Islam Makhachev, but I don't know, pulled out just the day before, and they had like the pre-fight pressers, and I don't know if I don't remember what media person was asking him this question. It may not even been who they were asking the question to, but I just remember just background noise when watching that pregame press conference was some media person asked a fighter like, "There's rumors that you're hurt or that you're injured and are gonna pull out," and then whoever they were asking it to was just like kind of just waved it off. Maybe that was Arman Tsarukyan trying to hold out to the last second. But so they've switched it up a little bit now because of that. So there's no more Arman Tsarukyan, Islam Makhachev 2. Now they've taken Renato Moicano, who originally was supposed to fight gray-haired, old man-looking Benel Dariush. But I guess he got completely pulled out of this card completely. I mean, those are the kind of terrible things that happen when fighters pull out of fights or wait till the last second to do it. So now there's just no one for Benel Dariush to fight, because they're trying to save the main card. Renato Machado was originally supposed to fight Benel Dariush, but now that won't happen. So that's just the changes to some fights, and the changes to the main card or the main event and the title fights. So still going to have both title fights, just not the expected sequel to it in Islam Makhachev versus Arman Tsarukyan. But what's changed because of this, not just because of what I've mentioned with the different fighter that Islam Makhachev is going to fight, but they had to put for the fifth fight on the main card. It changed a little bit, and that was something that I was going to come on here and kind of gloss over and kind of mention that the preliminaries and the early prelims don't have a lot of notable names or exciting fighters or popular fighters on the card, and there's only one heavyweight fight. So that was really the only fight I was interested in on the prelim card. But because of Arman Tsarukyan pulling out and no fight for Balnel Dariush, they've moved the heavyweight fight to the main card. So that makes me really happy because now I don't really have to follow the prelims or the early prelims that closely because I want to see every one of these fights on the main card. And that they got a heavyweight fight on there. I feel like that made this card even better. Like I've said, I think I say it every podcast. Every main event, every pay-per-view should have a heavyweight fight on it. Like no matter what, we want to see some brutal knockouts. So that's the big changes, the big notifications for this card. So we had a little bit of a switch up and move around and a pull out that's changed this card a little bit. But I feel it's just as good. And for being the first pay per view of the 2025 season, pretty good. You got two title fights, you got a heavyweight fight on the card, some popular fighters, and Kevin Holland, Yari Prohaska, Jamal Hill, and all that. But anyway, let's get into the main card. Let's actually get into some of the ins and outs of some of these fights. Can I get a menu? And so this is UFC 311, Makhachev versus Moicano, and this is January 18th, 2025. So tomorrow, Saturday, or no, yeah, January 28th, 2025. Because it was 18 and 25. I thought I was saying 25 for January. But no, it's the 18th tomorrow, Saturday, and that's 9 Central, 10 Eastern time. And this is at the Intuit Dome, the venue, the Intuit Dome, Inglewood, California, United States. And that was another thing that Dana White was kind of talking about was how like that they had set up before the wildfires and all that. They had set to have this event in Los Angeles or in California, but just like how they were, like how the WWE was and how the UFC was when it came to COVID. Like COVID wasn't going to stop them from having shows, and I guess just like that, wildfires aren't going to keep UFC from having shows either. So still have an event, even though there's parts of California and Los Angeles and some of those subdivisions that uh, look like a damn bomb, a war zone has happened after some of those subdivisions have been burnt to a crisp. So hopefully there will be more improvements and just good luck and prayers to people in California and Los Angeles dealing with these tragedies. But anyway, so let's move on. So we know our venue, we know the event. Let's get into the main card. Like I said earlier, there's not a whole lot of notable names or up and coming popular fighters on the prelims. So we're just gonna kind of go past that. But let's get to the main card. So the first fight on the main card, UFC 311, is a heavyweight bout between Gelton Gelton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak. And these are two fighters. They're heavyweights, and you think a lot for most time when you think heavyweights, you think of just like brutal knockout artists and strikers. But that's not really the case with these two fighters, Gelton Almeida and Sergey Spivak. They're both like Brazilian jiu-jitsus and like wrestlers. So this should be a good matchup, and I would say they're very in the same category in the same type of rankings, in that top. So in those last 5 fights, he is 4-1, and the one is just the Curtis Blades knockout. So the big names, a fighter that's just on the cusp of getting another heavyweight title shot, just like uh, a title shot gatekeeper in Curtis Blades, different from your normal gatekeeper that is just allowing people to rise up the ranks. Curtis Blades is more one of those gatekeepers where if you beat him, then you might get a title shot. So he lost to a very good fighter in him, and he was knocked out by Curtis Blades at 36 seconds of the second round, and then his other wins have come from TKO, uh, submission over Yareen Rosenstruck, decision over Derek Lewis, and then his last fight and his most recent win, he had a submission choke over Alexander Romanov, and that was at 227 of the first round, and that was at UFC 302. And that was just back at June 1, 2024. Man, they moved through them, that's for sure. But uh, Gelton Almeida, he's known for his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's known for like a great like a 80% takedown percentage or something like that in the UFC. So we know what he's wanting to do. But in his 24 fights, he's 21-3 with the 21 wins. Had 7 by knockout, which I imagine most of those are either like one shot, lucky catching someone, or just ground and pound from having a more dominant and better ground game. I wouldn't say most of any of that's really due to any type of elite striking game, but he is great on the ground though. With the submissions, he has 13 wins by submission and then 1 by decision. And then in the 3 losses, he's been knocked out twice, never been submitted because such a great ground game, and then just the 1 loss by decision. So Gelton Almeida, he's just 1 or 2 good, impressive or good wins in the top 10, and maybe if he gets 1 in the top 10, gets 1 in the top 5, may be in line for a heavyweight title shot. But then we have Spivak, Sergey Spivak, who is a kind of a similar fighter, just in regards to he's got a well versed ground game. I would say he's probably a better striker than Almeida, but definitely what the term I use, I guess, is you can't really call him a striker or a wrestler. He's kind of the term I like to use. He's a true mixed martial artist, and that kind of shows up with his varied ways of beating people. He can win by knockout, can win by submission, and he can go the distance. But let's see. In his last fights, he has the exact same type of record. He's 4-1, and he won 3 in a row, then lost, and then he won his most recent fight. Going way back, talking about pulling names out of the archive. His 5th fight back was against Greg Hardy, TKO in the first round, and Augusto Sakai TKO'd him, and then submission arm triangle over Derek Lewis in the first round, and then he lost by TKO punches to Cyril Gahn, which I think that's what led up to him having his fight. I want to say that was what led to Cyril Gahn getting the shot against. No, I wanted to say that was the fight that he won before he got the fight against John Jones, but it was the fight after he lost to him, and he had a get back game, but he got a get back fight where he lost, where he won by beating Sergey Spivak. And then most recent fight was just August 10th, 2024, a first round, minute 44 of the first round submission armbar by Marcin Tybura. So what I'm taking from this a little bit is in the 4 of the 5 wins, or the four of the 4 wins in his last 5 have all been by stoppage. 2 by knockout and 2 by submission. So that kind of gives me the thought that of who is actually the favored fighter. I kind of want to lean towards Spivak for this, and they're just ranked. they're very close in ranking. Gelton Almeida is sixth in the UFC, and Sergey Spivak is seventh. But I think I'm leaning towards Sergey Spivak just because of the 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 submission ability. I say that, but even in his last three of his last four fights have been stoppages as well. Man, that's a tough one. It's a tough fight to pick here. Well, I think in the first fight on this card, I think I'm going to go with I think I'm going to go because I kind of contradicted myself a little bit. I think I'm going to go with Gelton Almeida to win this, just because I believe he has a better ground game, like overall better ground game. Sergey Spivak may be a better rounded mixed martial artist and have better striking, but Gelton Almeida is like an elite ground tactician, especially for the heavyweight division. So if neither one is able to finish each other, which they've in their past five fights or so, they've shown a tendency to be able to get a knockout or a submission. But I think coming into this fight, I think Gelton Almeida uh, is gonna end up persevering just because he's one of his skills is more highly rated uh, than Gelton Almeida. So in this heavyweight bout between Gelton Almeida and Sergey Spivak, I think I'm going to go with Gelton Almeida to win this. And like I said, this is a tough fight to pick, really like the outcome of it because I feel Sergey Spivak has only ever gone to decision twice, once with two with a win and one with a loss, so three times. And then uh, yeah, Sergey Spivak has gone to decision three times, and Gelton Almeida has only gone twice with once with a win, once with a loss. But then, kind of both of them, the main path to victory you would think for both of them would be a submission, but neither one of them have ever really been submitted in their career. So this is a tough fight to pick. So I'm just going with I guess the um, higher rated by one ranking for Gelton Almeida, and hope that he is able to uh, take advantage of maybe having just even just slightly better wrestling and Brazilian jiu-jitsu and ground game. So in the heavyweight bout between Gelton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak, I'm going with Gelton Almeida to win this just by decision. I think both of them having such good submission games and just good ground games maybe just kind of cancel each other out. But I think Gelton Almeida will still be able to control the fight and maybe at times in the fight be able to hold Sergey Spivak down a little bit. All right, that was long-winded for the first fight on the card. Let's get to the second fight on this card, and it is a middleweight bout between Kevin Holland versus Renner de Ridder. And this is kind of like a complete opposite of the first fight on the card in regards to you got kind of two ground game guys that both have good ground games, but uh, can 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 get maybe a lucky punch in there and get someone rolling on the ground and pound and finish someone like that. But both of them both of them being kind of similar fighters. In this middleweight bout between Kevin Holland versus Renner de Ridder, they're just a complete different opposite and like contrast of each other. Because Kevin Holland, you know, he's something that I would kind of call a true mixed martial artist as well. But that's kind of just because he's been doing it for so long. But he's definitely predominantly a striker and wants to get the knockout. But also, I mean, he shows that he can get submissions as well. So let's see here. Uh, that's kind of the thing. He has the tendency and he's oh, available, always available for fights and short term fights. And I think he said for 2025 that he wants to have 5 or 6 fights or something like that. Like, yeah, that sounds all great for maybe just trying to make some money, but that doesn't sound really logical for someone that's gonna get a title shot or ever be that good probably ever again. Because I mean he's not old, just 32, but still having a little bit of a rough stretch and isn't afraid to fight anyone really. But he is just 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Uh, beat beat Michael beat Michael Chiesa submission Barbaro choke, and then lost by decision due to Jack Della Manalina and Michael Page, and then one submission Michael Olin Struck, uh, technical submission armbar, and that was the first round of 134 of the first round, and then Roman Dolidze was his most recent fight, just in October 5th, 2025. He lost because his what was that? That was like his didn't his like trying to think that was his elbow or something in that fight came became like dislocated, and then between rounds I think he was being held in like in an armbar, and his like elbow came like dislocated, and then between rounds they threw in the towel. But as you can see, not the best stretch in the last 5 fights, and just kind of just overall at this point in his career, I definitely he's Kevin Holland. He's a fan favorite, but I would definitely say that he's definitely kind of a gatekeeper at this point in his career. But he has 39 matches with 26 wins and 12 losses. In the 26 wins, he has 14 wins by knockout, 8 wins by submission, and 4 by decision. And then in the 12 losses, he has 2 losses by knockout, 3 by submission, 7 by decision, and then 1 no contest. So you can see he can win and beat you in any varied way, but he can also lose and get caught and get grinded out for a decision for 7 rounds as well. And then Randy Ritter, who is I would say is more definitely uh, a little bit better of a stretch than him, and has definitely a more well understanding of exactly what his like fighting style is. You know, he's a black belt in judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and that's how he wants to fight, and that's how he wants to win these fights is with his ground game. And he is 3-2 in his last in his last see his last 5 fights, and he's on a 2 fight winning streak. Gerald Merskreet and Magomedov Murdad Kasyavov. He won TKO punches and submission arm triangle choke. He's 3-2 in his last 6 fights, but he's coming off of a must be due to an injury or something with where he's coming over from one where he got knocked out in 2 fights. One of them was a retirement, but that was Anatoly Malikina Malik. He fought him twice, December 3rd, 2022, and then was on like a year and a half hiatus and didn't fight him again until March 1st, 2024, and then fought at UAE Warriors 51. Never really heard of it, and then his first fight that he's had was November 9th, 2024. It was a submission arm triangle choke at 144 of the third round, and that was his return to middleweight, and that was against Gerald Mersh Gart, uh, who I always recognize that name or remember him, and wanna Khabib Nurmag, uh, no, Hazmat Chimaev's one of his first really notable fights when he first really started getting noticed was like a really quick fight against him. He beat him like in like a minute or two in the first round, and he made it look like uh, made it look so easy. Yeah, it was literally 17 seconds of the first round, so that's why I always remember him. So he's 3-2 in his uh, uh, last 5 fights, but he's not coming over to UFC with a great record. You know, he got knocked out twice. One of them was a retirement, so it must have been some type of injury. But he was showing a little bit of uh, vulnerability with the chin there, and the last two fighters he fought don't really move the needle for me, but he is 20. He's had 20 fights with 18 wins and 2 losses. In the 18 wins, he's had 4 wins by knockout, so he's not really a striker or a knockout artist, but he's had 12 wins by submission and 2 by decision, and then the only 2 losses came by knockout. That's a bit of a tough fight to pick because Renner de Ritter, when he was coming over from one, he was like in a title contention, you know, top of their rankings, and then lost 2 fights in a row by knockout, coming over here and fighting kind of close to the bottom of the barrel of the middleweight division, and then having a pretty big step up in competition. I just don't know how good Renner de Ritter is, and he's 34 years old, so he's even older than Kevin Holland. But I just I don't trust Renner de Ritter's chin after his 2 knockouts in a row, and finally showed that he could be beat back on December 3rd, 2022. So I think I'm going to go with the fan favorite here, even though I don't know if betting odds wise he's the fan favorite, but I'm going to go with Kevin Holland. So in the middleweight bout between Kevin Holland versus Renner de Ritter, I'm going with Kevin Holland to win this. I think he's going to win by knockout. I say towards midway point of the second round, or early in the third is what I'm thinking. All right. Now then, getting on to some big names now. We have a light heavyweight, the third fight on the card, a light heavyweight bout between Yuri Prohaschek versus Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill, he just can't get right. Can't get right. He got damaged, mentally damaged or something. He's just never been right since the Alex Pereira fight, and I guess we haven't fought he hasn't fought since then. For some reason, I've thought that he's fought since then and won, but apparently not. But these are 2 fighters that are very similar. I think Yari Prohaschek has a little bit longer of a history of fighting, and the what is it? Is it Muay Thai? I think it's Muay Thai. Yeah, Muay Thai style of striking. And Jamal Hill is more just like a boxer, a kickboxer, but he has uh, ground game too. You know, he has a Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but has never had like a submission or anything. Mostly grinding out wins, going the distance, or he's getting some brutal knockout at the light division. So seeing this, I'm a little surprised. Uh, I guess I thought Jamal Hill had fought since the loss to Alex Pereira, but I guess not. So this should be very intriguing and interesting in regards to is Jamal Hill where should he be up in the top 5 of light heavyweights? This will be a big factor in that if he gets a rematch against Alex Pereira. An impressive performance in this fight could maybe lead to that. But let's see. So he is 4-1 in his last five fights, and the one just being his most recent fight where he lost to Alex Pereira at 3:14 of the first round, and that was for the unify. That was to unify the light heavyweight championship bout because he had the interim belt, and everyone remembers that fight. The grays of the cup. Herb Dean trying to step in to stop it, and next thing you know, Jamal Hill's twisted and cold up against the cage, slumped against the cage. But leading into that and before that, when he'd won the title and stuff, people thought he was a dominant, elite striker, great knockout artist. But I don't know, he's he hasn't made a great name for himself just in regards to social media responses and things that he said in press conferences. He's definitely embraced the heel, the heel, uh, the heel status. He's definitely a heel. He's not a baby face wanting fans to like him. He's just wanting to get another shot at Alex Pereira and another shot at the light heavyweight belt to me. But he's a good striker, has good kickboxing and has knockout power. But in his 15 fights, he's had 12 wins with two losses. In the 12 wins, he's had 7 wins by knockout, 5 wins by decision, and then 2 losses. He's been knocked out twice, and then has one no contest. So if he's going to lose, we kind of know how it's going to happen, and that would be pretty devastating and a even bigger step back for Jamal Hill in his career if he lost 2 fights in a row and fallen off of that top 5 ranking. And then we have Yari Prohaschek, who's a great Muay Thai artist. Like he's like Buddha style in his like therapy and and and, and his the way he meditates and things like that. Like he's a real Muay Thai practitioner, and he has bought into the lifestyle of it, I guess. But he's a good guy. He's a good guy, even though that seems like the only his only obstacle is Alex Pereira. But he's a good guy. It was his wife or some woman. He grew his hair out for a long time, and it got broke. We saw it get broken in his fight against Alex Pereira, which literally broke him. So you just have to scalp that thing off of there. So he had a lot of hair growing, and had enough for a had enough for a had enough for a wig for this lady that had like alopecia or something like that, where she was like completely bald. I think that may have been his girlfriend. So Yuri Prospect, besides not being able to beat Alex Pereira, he's a good guy and as a great fighter. He's a top 5 light heavyweight. But in his last 5 fights, he is 3-2, and we all know the 2 losses were TKO elbows by Alex Pereira, and then TKO head kick and punches by Alex Pereira. But the fights in between there, he's had uh, KO spinning back elbow Dominic Reyes, submission rear naked choke Glover Teixeira, Alexander Rakic TKO punches. So he's shown pretty impressive. Like that's pretty much the only way he really wins for the most part is by stoppage. And he was on a stretch there of, let's see, he was on a stretch there of 10 wins, 10 straight wins by knockout before his win over Glover Teixeira, where he won the light heavyweight belt. But he is like talking about similar styles, and they prefer the striking. He's very similar in that regard. We should have a good stand-up fight, and unless we want one of these fighters, Jari Prochazka or Kevin Holland, decide that they would have a better chance of winning this fight, taking it to the ground. But we should have a good striking bout. This should be basically just like a kickboxing bout, I would assume. But Yari Prohaschek is 30 has 36 fights with 30 wins and just 5 losses. And in the 30 wins, he has 26 of them by knockout. That's just impressive. Really, the only person that's been able to stop him is is Alexander or is Alex Pereira, and then has 3 wins by submission, 1 by decision, and then the 5 losses. That's about the only way you can beat Yuri Prohaschek is he's got somewhat of a suspect chin. In the 5 losses, he's lost 4 of them. Almost all of them have been by knockout. And uh, only statistics, history would show that he's either going to win this fight by knockout or he's going to lose this fight by knockout. And then no losses have gone to decision, and then 1 draw. So this is a tough fight, but I almost want to pick Jamal Hill just because I want to embrace the heel character that he's kind of built up, and I just there's a lot of UFC fans out there that would probably hate it if Jamal Hill won and started running his mouth on social media and looked like he's about to be next in line for a title shot. But I don't think I can trust or believe that he can beat Yari Prohaschek just because they're very similar fighters, but they're both strikers. But I just think Yari Prohaschek is a better striker and has better has better Muay Thai and maybe has better knockout capabilities because his history shows that. So in this light heavyweight bout between Yuri Prohaschek versus Jamal Hill, uh, I'm going with Yuri Prohaschek to win this. I think he's going to win this by knockout. So maybe have two knockouts in a row here with Kevin Holland and Yuri Prohaschek. All right, now then, on to the co-main events. I'm getting into some title shots here, title bouts here. We have a bantamweight bout between Merab Dashwili, the champion, versus Umar Nurmagomedov. And Merab Dashwili, he's been on a heater, maybe not necessarily the most impressive of a heater, just because he's not getting too many stoppages, and it's a lot of lay and pray and ground and pound and holding people down. But if it wins you the belt, if it wins you the title, if people can't beat you, then I don't see why you would revert from it. But he is on a, let's see, 11. He's on an 11 fight win streak. And out of those 11 fights, only one of them has been by stoppage. Marlon Morales, TKO on September 25th, 2021 at 425 of the second round. And then every other single fight has been by decision, and him just basically just holding people down, laying and praying, little ground and pound, and just controlling that ground game. But he's known for his combat sambo, his striking combo, and he's definitely an elite sambo tactician, Georgian. It was kind of funny when they were talking to Islam Makhachev, Merab Dashwili, Umar Nurmagomedov. They were talking about like Georgina and being from Dagestan and Russia and stuff, and they were just talking about how they're the most popular, most best fighter from that area, and they were arguing a little bit, which was kind of funny. So Rob Dashwili definitely on a heater, definitely has found his clear and best path to victory, definitely. But then you're coming in here and you're fighting a fighter that's 18 and 0. So he's 18 and 0, obviously 5 and 0 in his last 5 fights. So he's 18 and 0, has 18 fights, 18 wins, with 2 wins by knockout, 7 wins by decision, or 7 wins by submission, and 9 wins by submission. So he's a similar fighter in regards to, he's from Russia. He's a combat sambo technicianer. I just don't know if he. So it's basically going to be like this. Probably the to start off, you're going to kind of get an idea of maybe who the better striker is. But if they kind of cancel each other out a little bit, this could turn into a combat sambo match. But it's hard for me to want to pick Nurmagomedov just because this is such a step up in competition. Because this is read these last five fights like Brian Keller, Nate Maneth, Rioni, Barcelos, Backcats Al McCon, and Corey Sandhagen. Like Corey Sandhagen being his most recent victory, which was a decision 5 round fight back on August 3rd, 2024. Win all 5 rounds for the for the UFC bantamweight title eliminator. I'm sorry, but the name Corey Sandhagen and any of those previous uh, fighters that just doesn't really move the needle all that much for me. So I find it hard for me to want to pick him. And we went over the out of the 18 wins, 2 by knockout, 7 by and 9 by decision. Okay, man. So basically, I mean, you just kind of have to go with the better the the better combat sambo technicianer and the guy that's basically become champion for it. And he's a little older, not by much, about 5 years. Hard to want to pick the up and comer over the literal champ and the one that's he's just on almost just as long of a winning streak. Maybe not undefeated, but 11 straight wins and then 18-0. But in this bantamweight championship bout between the champion Merab Dashwili, the champion, versus Umar Nurmagomedov, the challenger. I'm going with Merab Dashwili in this, and I don't. I mean, it probably won't be that exciting or that impressive of a victory. I mean, in regards to Merab Dashwili winning this fight and probably not taking much damage and it never being really in danger, that'll be impressive. But you're never gonna in this fight, you're probably never gonna see it to where it looks like, oh man, this fight may get stopped or Merab Dashwili might get a knockout or might get a submission or something like it. I feel if that happens, it'll probably be because what is it? Umar Nurmagomedov will probably be the one more likely to win this fight by stoppage and knockout or submission because Merab Dashwili just doesn't do it. He doesn't finish people. He just grinds people out and stacks up wins. I mean, you can hate on it all you want, but it is what it is. He wins and he's the champion. All right. So in the bantamweight championship bout between Merab Dashwili, the champion, versus Umar Nurmagomedov, the challenger, I got Merab Dashwili winning this and just grinding out 5 rounds and winning this. Do more, and if he's dominant enough, maybe he'll be kissing. What was it? Sean, yeah, might be kissing Umar Nurmagomedov on the back like he was Sean O'Malley. He was such an impressive and dominant performance in that bout. All right, now then on to the main event of this of UFC 311, Makhachev versus Moicano. This is a lightweight bout between Islam Makhachev, the champion Islam Makhachev, versus the challenger Renato Moicano. And we talked about it a little bit. This fight originally was supposed to be on Tsarukyan, who Islam Makhachev and him have fought before. So this was supposed to be a sequel to that. The number 2, Islam Makhachev, Armen Tsarukyan 2. But because of that, because of his injury or his pullout, whatever it was, You lost Benel Dariush, old gray hair from this, and you switched Renato Moicano into Arman Tsarukyan's uh, slot. And this has to be a big disappointment for Arman Tsarukyan having to pull out at the last moment like this. And he's on a 4 fight winning streak and has some stoppages mixed in there. And man, and he's only 28 years old. This has seemed like prime position for Arman Tsarukyan to maybe try to at least have, if nothing else, have an impressive and another competitive performance against Islam Makhachev, if not win. So the fact that he fought back and finally got his rematch against him and then pulls out literally like the day before is kind of annoying. But even so, I still think I was probably going to pick Islam Makhachev for this. And this is a three in a row. Their fighting styles and more combat sambo with Islam Makhachev and coming from Marab Dashwili and Umar Nurmagomedov. But I think Islam Makhachev is a little more well-rounded of a fighter than Marab Dashwili and Umar Nurmagomedov. I think he does actually have a better striking game than those two, and has a better sense of finishing, when he gets someone in trouble with the ground and pound, he's more likely to actually get a stop instead of just kind of laying on him. Like he's a finisher, which is impressive. But he is like what, 13-0 in his last 13 fights. Let's see. 14. I think I'm counting 14. Might be one or two off, but he hasn't lost since October 3rd, 2015. It was a KO punch. Adrano Martinez at 146 of the first round, all the way back in 2015, UFC 192. But since then, he's won 13, 14 fights straight, and they haven't just been like hasn't been by hasn't been like Marab Dashwili, where they've just been grinding out and taking people the distance and getting decision victories. They've been a mix of everything, and a good mix, about half and half have been maybe even 2/3 have been either knockout or submission, and then there's some couple decisions mixed in there. But in his last 5 fights, he's obviously 5-0. But I just want to rattle off the names that he's been fighting, because he's definitely fighting the best of the best, and shouldn't be really in any argument about it, as if Islam Makhachev is currently just not even pound and pound, uh, or just top, like number one, or he's the champion at lightweight, but maybe just in the UFC in general, number one pound for pound fighter. And I'll just list some of these names off. These last five makes it pretty clear. So Bobby Green, yeah, nothing too exciting about him. But Charles Oliveira, Alexander Volkanovski. Alexander Volkanovski fought him twice. Literally, he basically he's about the only one that can beat him. It, as what we've seen over the last couple years, and then Dustin Poirier, and those were it's a little surprising. I was hearing them talk about has the opportunity to surpass Khabib Nurmagomedov of lightweight champions consecutive title defenses. I guess he only has three, and four is the most. Man, that's hard to believe that Khabib Nurmagomedov only defended the lightweight bout 3 times. So that's an interesting statistic. But in Islam Makhachev, in his 27 matches, he's had 26 wins. The one loss we talked about, but in the 26 wins, he's had 5 wins by knockout. More than likely getting someone on the run and winning off of ground and pound. But then he also has 12 wins by submission and 9 by decision. So he can beat you in any variable way, but he's a very good combat sambo. But besides even the combat sambo, he 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 has good striking as well, better than what I would say of Umar Nurmagomedov or Merab Dvalishvili, uh, who are also combat sambo. But unexpected, and have to give it to both of these fighters. You got to give it to Islam Makhachev and got to give it to Renato Moicano as well of taking this fight on literally a day's notice. So that's impressive for both of these guys. Let's see, so he Renato Moicano, he's a not necessarily a similar uh, fighter to Islam Makhachev, but he is a ground fighter predominantly. I would say more in the striking, more like Muay Thai, but uh, not Sambo, not your Russian wrestling, more Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Definitely, that's what his preferred uh, path to victory definitely is, and he is 4-1 in his last 5 fights, and he is 4-0 in his last 4 fights. Brad Riddell, Drew Dober, Jalen Turner, and Benoit Saint Denis. Uh, Submission rear naked choke over Brad Riddle, TKO elbows and punches over Jalen Turner, and TKO stoppage over Benoit Saint Denis. Pretty impressive uh, for him to take this fight, but I mean he was right there anyways with an impressive victory over Benoit Saint Denis. Probably would have set him up with a title opportunity anyways. But he has 26 uh, matches, 26 fights with 20 wins and 5 losses. In the 20 wins, 2 of them have been by knockout, 10 have been by submission, and 8 have been by decision. And then in the 5 losses, he has 3 losses by knockout, 1 by submission, which that one submission loss may come into play big time, and then 1 loss by decision, and then in the draws, just 1 draw. So man, this is just a kind of a hard matchup uh, for Renato Manchano. When you strength versus strength, but man, when your strength versus their strength, which is has more strength to it, man, it usually leads to a victory, leads to a loss. Uh, so both of these fighters, have great ground games, great submission games. I guess it'll come down to who has the better stand up and who has any type of takedown defense or ability to get back up. But I just wanted to go over a few things before I make this pick, just because I think bantamweight champion Merab Dvalishvili, he he leads the bantamweight division in takedowns, I think, with like 80 of them or something ridiculous like that, like 80. I know it's a big margin, but I heard it somewhere as like 50 or like 8. I want to say 80, and he needs like 8 more to pass the record. And that was kind of a funny back and forth at the pregame or pre-fight press conference between Merab Dvalishvili and Umar Nurmagomedov. Is that Umar Nurmagomedov said he wasn't going to get those eight takedowns against him. All right, sorry about that. I had to mix some of this stuff around a little bit because I forgot a little note there for that. But anyway, so on to the main event. Let's finish this. It's a lightweight bout between Islam Makhachev, the champion, versus Renato Moicano, the challenger, and respect to him stepping up and respect to Islam Makhachev for taking the fight on late 1 day notice. But Islam Makhachev, he's him. He's on another different level, different level, and just on another planet than most of these fighters, and most of these fighters in his weight class, and just pound for pound. So big props to Renato Moicano, and hopefully it's an exciting fight, and maybe hopefully it's more competitive than I think it's going to be. But in this lightweight championship bout between Islam Makhachev, the champion, versus Renato Moicano, I'm going with Islam Makhachev to win this, and I think he's going to win by submission. I think he's going to get some type of choke with Renato Moicano, and I think it's going to be kind of wash, rinse, and repeat with Islam Makhachev, and it doesn't probably doesn't help that his challenge. I guess it could be a negative, and it could be a positive that his opponent wasn't training and preparing for him, but also Islam Makhachev wasn't training and preparing for him either. But I think Armin Tsarukyan and Renato Moicano are similar fighters. They're all like wrestlers and see, yeah, they're like wrestlers or combat sambo and judo. Like they're all ground game technicians. That's what they'd prefer to win. I guess Ahmad Sarukian had a few more knockouts in on his record, but he is also a great wrestler, top team wrestler. But so in the lightweight championship bout between Islam Makhachev, the champion, versus Renato Moicano, the challenge. I'm going with Islam Makhachev to win this. I think he's going to win it by submission. Like I said, just wash, rinse, and repeat. Win by submission, probably might be in the later rounds, might be in the into the third, fourth round. He's gonna sink in a choke on Renato Moicano, and he ain't gonna be able to go nowhere. All right, so that's UFC 311. Uh, um, Makhachev versus Moicano. Been some little bit of critiquing and things to the main card, but I don't think it had a negative effect on it. I think if anything, it's a positive effect because you don't have to watch prelims to watch the heavyweight bout between Jailton Almeida and Sergey Spivak. So